It's been a while now since we've posted a video here on the main T.REX ARMS YouTube channel giving you information about what is going on in the company. There was an initial announcement, and now I think a lot of people have legitimate concerns about what is going on. There's a number of people that have jumped to some pretty extreme conclusions and have questions like, why is it that the other owners are still with the company? Why is it that Lucas is no longer with the company? And part of the reason for the delay is that we have been really thinking and praying about what is the best way to address some of these things. What is the best way for us to provide some facts and our perspective?
For years, we've tried to be a principle-based company that puts our principles above our profits and tries to do the right thing. And so if it was true that we had stolen the company, that would be a very big problem for you, our followers and customers, legitimately so. It hurts that this allegation has been made, and we believe we owe it to you to just lay things out so you can more fairly judge the situation. So Lucas Botkin first started making and selling holsters online in September 2013. I came on in February of 2014 as the first guy that really stuck with making holsters. There were some other people helped earlier, but I've been with T.REX almost since the very beginning. And it was only a month later when I think I first had the idea of this thing could be a partnership. And that's when I actually first talked with Luke about it, over a year before we ended up signing a partnership agreement. A few months later, in July, David Noor joined the team and started making holsters. A lot of this was very collaborative, and we were helping out with a lot of different things. Even before I was a partner, I was doing the finances for T.REX ARMS. David Noor helped design the sidecar. My mom came up with the name. It was a family business in practically every single way. We operated out of the family garage.
Family tools?
Family tools. We used my guns. We all pitched in. It was on a family road trip that David Noor was along for the ride on that we really sat down for the first time and drew out what this partnership might look like. It was in a restaurant in Iowa. And that's where we really started to wrap our minds more fully around this concept of the team being capable of doing stuff that individuals could never accomplish on their own. It was also around this time that Lucas started leaning on David and me to commit long-term to the business. We were doing a lot to carry the load. Luke recognized that, and he recognized that he needed our help. It was in February that we actually sat down and started writing the partnership agreement, what we've been discussing for months, and did it in an online collaborative text editor called TitanPad. And then in April, we actually signed the thing. At that time, it was 2 pages long. We had not hired a lawyer. Lawyers are expensive for a little tiny company. We just wrote in plain English what we agreed to. At the time we signed the partnership agreement, the company was doing about 2 or 3 holsters a day in orders. And it was basically a part-time gig for all 3 of us.
Now, in the interest of biblical transparency, since truth and humility are core values here at T.REX, we're going to be posting this document and a timeline of events on our website. If you'll recall, this is exactly what we did years ago with the plate carrier debacle. AC1s turned out to be AC Unos. We made a video explaining how we had made this mistake, but then we also posted documents on the website detailing how it happened and the receipts. So this is just the same thing again.
Going back to the document, one of the things that you should particularly look at in it is the partner responsibilities. Lucas Botkin doing branding, I doing financial management, and David Noor basically doing operations. We divvied up those responsibilities, and within a year, the company had 10x'd its orders. We were doing 30, 40 holsters a day. We'd also started hiring our first team members that were non-owners, and that division of labor worked great. Luke went and did his thing, I did my thing, David did his thing, we worked as a team, and it was very, very successful. We were proving out the principle that the team could accomplish more than any individual could.
So growth was crazy, super fun, 10xing in a year. We realized that we needed to bring in some automation. It wasn't going to cut it to be using the bandsaws and the drill presses for the long term. Also realized at the same time, David Botkin foresaw that a partnership with its liability exposure, we really needed to become a corporation. And so we sent off the partnership agreement to an attorney representing all 4 of us, Lucas, me, David, and then Isaac, who we were going to bring in to try to do this automation piece. And he put some documents together trying to match what we had before, brought it in, sat us all down in a room and walked us through it, and then we signed that.
So one of the points that Lucas has made is that he was naive when he signed these documents, and that's kind of fair. We were all naive. That's why we all recognized that we needed legal counsel that could represent all of us and represent all of our interests in helping us craft something that was really fair and balanced for everybody. So we had the lawyer come out. He walked us through the entire legal agreement. We talked about it. We made some edits. And it was after that, with all of us, that we signed.
Handcrafting doesn't scale well. When I started in 2014, it was taking us 3 hours to make a holster. And so at the kind of growth that we were seeing, that just wasn't sustainable, which is why it was so important to have Isaac come on. And we couldn't have afforded to pay someone at his level to bring in automation. But by giving him a stake in the game, he was willing to come and work and bring that capability to the team. And that allowed us to continue growing.
The other thing the automation did is it really helped the customer. We got higher quality product. We were making much more consistent holsters, and it enabled us to keep up with this growth that God really sent us. I believe God started sending the company this growth when these guys started hiring people, sometimes before the growth had even showed up, to really take care of guys in our community, hire them, give them good jobs. And God did provide, and God provided customers buying product, but God also provided new team members, and the team grew in a lot of different ways. Not only did we have great collaboration, like we talked about earlier, but we also got people who had incredible skills. So Colonel Dahl was one of the very first people that I hired to make holsters on the very first CNC machines. But as a Marine colonel, he also brought a tremendous amount of leadership capability, which kind of freed us up in some ways to focus on better product design, but also some of the mission of the company, some of the ideology, some of the customer support, some of the stuff around Second Amendment issues. And that let us get into some political lobbying here in Tennessee.
The extra bandwidth that we had allowed areas of misalignment to start coming out. One of those was politics. Lucas was not on board initially with getting into politics. We believed that the rest of us believed that it was an important piece of our company mission to influence the 2A space here in our state. Another one that happened later was he was uncomfortable with having voluntary prayer as part of company gatherings. And the rest of us believed that that was actually an important part of our core values, of our values as a company, to include that. And so he brought in some attorneys to try to convince us to not do that. Ultimately, they looked at what we were doing and said, oh no, this is actually appropriate.
We've never wanted to talk about any area of disagreement between us or Lucas publicly, but here we are. And one of the most sensitive areas of disagreement surrounds the prenup situation. When Luke was moving in the direction of marriage with Kara, he recognized that he should have a prenup. And this was proving to be a challenging area of discussion between Luke and Kara. And I had an idea that if we made it a company policy that unmarried owners, which would apply to Lucas and David Knorr, who at that time was also not married, if we made a policy that owners had to get prenups before they got married, that would give Luke support and back him up. I should have thought better through the ramifications of that and the way that would be received by Kara and all the potential for hurt feelings and wounds that could generate. And for that failure, I am very sorry. I had good intentions of trying to help and protect my brother, but good intentions are not enough.
Aside from the family issues that we have already discussed, I want to talk about more of a business issue concerning the allegation of Kara not having any follow-up on being hired. So I was the director of operations at that time. I was coming into more leadership in the company after having worked here since 2017. And I did most of the hiring during that time of over 35 people in 1 year. I had help from the director of administration who had recently come in. And together we screened and vetted and interviewed everyone that came into the company over the next couple of years. So in May of 2021, a board meeting was held where Kara's job description that she had written was presented to the board, which is something that is above and beyond what we would normally do. We looked at that job description, and it was basically, even though part-time, the responsibilities of what the chief operations officer was already doing in the company, as well as the director of operations. It was followed up a couple months later by the director of admin having 2 one-on-one meetings with Kara. And the result of that was that we had no position available. In fact, there was nothing in the company at that time that would fit a chemical engineer coming in part-time to do those things.
In 2023, with conflict between us and Lucas pretty stiff, we had a board meeting, and one of the things that come out of that was the creation of a CEO, once again, in our company. Lucas really lobbied for this really hard. He really wanted a non-family member being the CEO, and that CEO was empowered with full hiring, firing, promoting, and demoting capabilities. And Mark took it away in, what was it, September 2023?
So we had been dealing for the past year. I'd been an officer in the executive leadership team. We had been dealing with trying to get better functional behaviors and organizational health using Table Group for about the last year when they made me the CEO. And the behaviors were not really changing as fast or as healthy as they needed to. And a lot of that revolved around unhealthy behaviors from Lucas concerning the way he treated people or didn't talk to people, his leadership skills and his lack of collaboration and communication with others, just basically not playing well in the sandbox. So when I became the CEO in October, I made it very clear that I was going to be looking at the structure of the company, possibly changing, and that included the executive leadership team. So in Q1 of 2024, I actually removed Lucas from the executive leadership team, and he seemed to think that that was not actually a bad idea. However, our relationship degraded over about the next 6 months, and it became very obvious that he was now not with me, but against me in what I was doing as CEO.
Now, despite all of this, I really want to clarify something. The internet seems to believe that at this point we were forcing Lucas out of the company, when we were really just trying to build something that would play into all of our strengths better. Exactly what these guys have been trying to do from the very beginning. It was Lucas who initiated this conversation about a buyout. In January of this year, at our board meeting, he came in and said he did not want to work with us anymore. He was either going to buy us out or we were going to buy him out. That was where he was at.
So yeah, in the middle of this buyout, and that's when the images incident happens, March of 2025. And in our last video, we were, what we chose to say and what not to say, we left the door open for confusion and disappointment, and we're sorry for that. Here's what happened. A now former team member sent a sexually inappropriate webcomic to Lucas's wife. When Lucas brought this to leadership's attention, we immediately suspended the guy and began investigating. And that kind of conduct is not acceptable, and we don't tolerate it here at T.REX ARMS. Our sympathies also for Lucas and his wife. No one should be on the receiving end of unwanted sexual material. During the investigation, the guy stated that he had tried to share them, the images, from social media to himself, and he thought he had sent them to his own iMessage. It was on a personal device at home. Intent is very hard to prove, but all of the evidence was consistent with it being an accident. There was no pattern of harassment or solicitation, and the decision that was made was to suspend him without pay, put him on probation for 18 months, and ban him from any further contact with the victim. We later ran this by an employment attorney, and their verdict was what we did was reasonable, and it was designed to prevent anything like this from happening again in the future. However, after the fact, Lucas began spreading the team member's name among other team members, and he is no longer with the company. We fell short in not going a little slower and getting more counsel. Lucas asked us to run it by an attorney at the time, and we didn't do that. I wish we had. In the low trust environment that had developed, it would have made a lot of sense. It would have been wise to do. The Bible actually says in many advisors there is safety, and so we did fall short in that. If we err in handling misconduct, it is with the goal of showing grace and being restorative. And that was the heart in what we were trying to do in this situation.
Going back, I don't know, 12 years or something, we used to have a motto that we used in this company, which was everyone goes home happy. Sort of like the golden rule, only turned up to 11. One of the things that became obvious was that there was just no way Luke was going to be able to continue being happy at T.REX working with us. And so we, in good faith, engaged with the negotiation process and explored that. And he sent offers, counteroffer, went back and forth. And when we considered it, and we considered the mission that we were on, and we considered the commitment that we made years ago to this mission and building this company, and to all the people that we'd hired over the years, and all of their families, and our desire for all of them to get to go home happy at the end of the day, we ultimately concluded that while it might be possible that the buyout situation and like staying in the company, buying Luke out, while it might be painful and dangerous, we felt that's what we had to do for our team members.
Yeah, we could have walked away with a payout, but the team and the mission is what mattered more. During the buyout negotiation, David and Isaac and I were getting together with our wives in our homes and just praying. And we thought back to the early days and that first employee that we hired, and how God then blessed our heart to provide great jobs right here in our local area. And Lucas at the time was saying things like, you know, he was going to get rid of 5 out of 7 executives and 10% of the staff, not like a specific 10%, but just because there's always 10% that are underperformers is his idea. And so we just realized before the Lord, we needed to stay for the mission and for the team. And so that's what we're doing.
I firmly believe that back in the early days, the company never would have gone anywhere without it being a partnership with all 3 people in there with their different skills and abilities and giftings. But that's a long time ago, and that's when the company was only 3 people. We're close to 100 people now, and no one person is indispensable anymore. And that's the other thing. This company is not really even about us or the people here. You guys are almost as much of the company as we are, because it's your support, your purchases, your online viewing that really build this company up and make it what it is. We have a common mission that we're all on board with, you and us, and we're all still committed to that, even though Lucas is going in a bit of a different direction, but probably still doing a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah, we're still on mission. But as we sit here today, there is a lot of grief. We've had a lot of reason to think back to the early years and to the times when we were just firing on all cylinders, working side by side, Lucas, David, Isaac, and many others on our team as well, including Colonel Dahl. And so there is just, yeah, I mean, I had this vision for Isaac, David, and Lucas especially, all that they could do working in unity. And that part is now dead. All our hearts, though, are still for reconciliation, and I still believe that is possible. Actually, last year I asked Isaac and David and Lucas to go to a family counselor together, and Isaac and David were willing. Lucas turned that down, but I think I can speak for the guys here. That offer is still on the table. They're still willing, and it always will be.
Whatever Lucas goes to build, whatever companies or products he develops, we know that they're going to be cool, but we're staying here with T.REX. And I want to thank all of you guys who are with us and have been emailing us to let us know that you're praying for us and that you're still on board with this mission. You're still passionate about a Second Amendment company that builds things for the people that the Second Amendment was written for, the citizenry. We're still passionate about building this citizen defense industry, something that reindustrializes America and provides great jobs, but also really good made in America stuff for those serious citizens. These are the things that we really care about. These are the things that we are committed to as our core values. And it's because we're committed to you.